Hi guys, welcome to another lesson. Today we're going to talk about a very important topic and one of the most frequent questions that I get, which is how much time should I practice? Once I heard somebody that replied to this question saying it depends on how much you want to improve or how good you want to be. And at that point I thought, wow, this is a real, challenge between who plays and who practices the most. But then I realized, practicing myself, that wasn't really the question. That wasn't really the right answer, because I found out that we can only do certain things for a certain amount of time, especially if we're working with our brain and not only with our muscles. So we can train our body 10, 12 hours a day, 16 hours a day easily, especially if we're not lifting super heavy weights and we're not like going to work on our muscles in a very extreme way. But doing stuff isn't always the way of achieve goals. So the real thing that I understood and discovered on myself and then on my students is that we have to first of all train our concentration. So how much you should practice is based on how much your concentration is trained. And if there's something that you want to train, first of all, before your muscles, before your grooves, before whatever you're doing, is your concentration. Because without concentration, you're not going anywhere. Once I had this conversation with a student of mine, I was saying, I practice 10 hours a day, 9 hours a day, and nothing is improving. And I was thinking, if I would practice 10 hours a day, I would become a beast. Because I did practice 8 hours a day in the past, because I had to, because I had job to do and stuff to finish, so writing albums and being involved in different projects. So I had to work and play drums for 8 hours a day, not continuously, but during the day. But I never really practiced 8 hours for the sake of practicing. I practiced 2, 3, 5 hours a day. That was my maximum, because my brain couldn't do more than that, because my concentration, I trained my concentration to work at a maximum of 5 hours a day divided during the day. When we practice drums, we're not at the gym. What's the big difference between practicing drums and going to the gym? In both cases you need concentration, but what you're training at the gym are, most of the times, 99% of the times, are big muscles. Okay, like the chest, abs, biceps, legs, and all that stuff. Instead, when we practice drums, we're practicing coordination, so we're working on articulations, smaller muscles, fingers, ankles, and all that stuff. The main difference is that to concentrate, to have the connection between your brain and big muscles, so that they have big connections to our brain, is that you need 30% of concentration and 70% of physical effort. Meaning that once you feel that your chest is working, you can listen to music, you can do all kind of stuff, you can talk in between rests and all that stuff, and then when you sit back, you go back and just put a little bit of concentration and you feel that muscle working, and that's it. When we are working on such small muscles far further away from our brain, so the distance is different, we really have to have a lot of concentration. So it's 70% of concentration and 30% of physical work. So if after 5 seconds that you sit down practicing, you're already thinking about something else, or you're just doing stuff, you're not practicing anymore. So how much time should you practice is based on that. It's based on how much time can you spend focusing on something. So it's not how much time, but it's how you practice that makes all the difference in the world. I practiced around an hour and a half to 3 hours a day for most of my life. This is how much I practiced usually every day. And if I'm not traveling or if I don't have any studio work or any extra thing, I always practice every day. That's the goal, that's the secret behind it. It's practicing a little bit every day because your brain stays trained every day. We don't have intense moments where our brain anyway can only have and absorb a certain amount of information, and then it needs time to re-elaborate them and start to apply them. And then you don't practice that thing for 2 months thinking, okay, I did this and now it's done. No, you have to have these circular programs that every once in a while brings you back to this one topic and one thing, and that's because your brain needs to keep being, it's like talking. It's not like going on a bicycle. It's like speaking a language. So if you don't speak that language every day, certain words, you start to forget them and you start to have hard times explaining and talking. Instead, the more you talk, the more you speak that language, the easier it becomes and the more words you learn and so on. So you have to think of that, and every time you sit on the drums, you really have to know exactly what you're doing, where you're going with your program. And if you practice 2 hours and a half every day in an efficient way, you will kill all the drummers that sit there for 10, 15 hours because they waste 10, 13 hours a day of their life. They don't even waste it, they waste it, plus they just get more frustrated because they don't get what they want from their practicing and all that stuff, because they expect way more in those 10 hours than what they get. Instead, you just get tired, and the day after you're not ready because you got so tired the day before, and so you start overworking and overdoing. And most of the time that's because it's for the sake of doing. It's for the sake of, I'm doing it and I feel good because I'm doing. And instead, doing in that way, it doesn't lead you anywhere really. It just tires you and upsets you and frustrates you. So how to practice, it's essential. Having a 30 minutes time for each topic. So for example, you can have 5 topics divided in 30 minutes, and that will be 2 hours and a half. And every 60 to 120 seconds, you change something about what you're practicing. Okay, if you're practicing your hands, for example, you're German, you can do 60 seconds one hand and 60 seconds another hand and repeat, then 60 second unison, 60 second alternated, and then repeat. And those are already 4 minutes of your time of 30, so you have to have 20 to go for 26 minutes. So you can start changing your senses. You can do 60 seconds, one of these rounds with your eyes closed, then with your eyes open, and it's going to be already 8 minutes. And then you can focus on listening, and it's 12 minutes, and you spent already almost half of your 30 minutes to work on your hand in a way more efficient way than just practicing a 10-minute single stroke rolls, thinking about football and your girlfriend and all other kind of stuff. So how to practice, it's the question, and it's not how much time should I practice. If you practice in the wrong way for 12 hours a day, you're not going anywhere, and that's scary. That's wasting 12 hours a day that you could spend at the beach, you can spend at the swimming pool with your friends, or learning something else, learning how to have your career, to edit videos and all that stuff. So be very careful, and whenever you heard someone saying, how much time do you practice? Stop them and say, that doesn't matter. How much time can you stay concentrated? That's how much time you can practice. And how do you practice? That's the real question. Okay, so hopefully this helps all of you guys practicing at home to have a more efficient practicing. And have fun, and I'll see you next time.